Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. My guest today is Sallie Wagner, an intentional life coach. Sallie's mantra is quite clear: mindset, skill set, and get off your asset. Sallie has developed a program where she uses emotional freedom techniques and neuro-linguistic programming to help people get out of their own way so that they can finally chase their dreams in all aspects of their lives. Sallie is a successful public speaker, author, lawyer, real estate broker, and life coach. Today, she's here to share her secrets for getting out of your own way, overcoming your fears and traumas so that you can start chasing the life that you deserve. Sallie, thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Those were a lot of commas in there, right?
Yeah.
You got a lot of things going on. So between the real estate broker and the public speaker and the life coach, dude, tell us who you are and how you became so amazing.
Well, thank you. It was not a direct road, I can tell you that. There were lots of, perhaps I should say I took the scenic route to get where I am. It was definitely not a straight line journey. And yet what I do is a culmination of everything I've learned in life, everything I've studied in life. I started out in college as a physics major, ended up in theology. I was one of those I couldn't decide. So it was kind of physics to metaphysics. And then I got distracted and I went to law school, and I had a long career in law. I still practice, but not a traditional practice. I have the real estate stuff going on, not a traditional practice. I do consulting to real estate brokerages. I also have a real estate school, and I'm able to bring life coaching principles to all of those things that I do.
You know what's really cool is that they say that there are only 2 degrees that put you into everything. At least that's what I tell my kids, right? And that's business and law, right? So once you master one of those, like, you can really apply it to just about every other part, of wherever else you want to go. Now, when you took the law route and then segued that into the real estate practice, which, like you said, it wasn't traditional. It wasn't just buying and selling houses. It sounds more like a sales consultation role where you're helping people make more sales in real estate and not just, how to sell a single family residential house in some suburb, right? How did that sales training come about, and where did you get the foundation for that, in order to guide you towards this more elevated life coaching role that helped you blow that part out of the water?
So most of my background on the law side of things was real estate and business related. I was general counsel, in-house counsel, those types of positions, business and real estate related. And so when I looked at going out on my own, I filled a need that I saw to do compliance reviews, review contract documents, make sure everything was in place. And my now colleague was doing the broker consulting piece of things, guiding agents on transactions, helping them understand the contract. And he said, well, why don't we join forces, kind of like peanut butter and jelly, or peanut butter and chocolate, whichever your preference is. And we did. And since then, it has grown exponentially. And so we teach the contract documents. We help people understand that, because that's their greatest tool. And as they understand, then they're more powerful in representing the buyer or the seller in the transaction.
This segues very nicely into the one big tip, which is all about, fixing your mindset, fixing your skill set, and getting off your asset, right? So yes. First of all, I love that mantra because it really covers, just about everything that one needs in order to be hyper successful in this field. Let's talk about these one by one, right? So the first one, before you start trying to use the tools that you have in your hand, you really got to figure out how you're going to use them. So that starts with the mindset, right? Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that, how you help people figure out, whether they do have a mindset for sales, or whether they can be successful at selling this type of, real estate versus another type, maybe residential versus commercial, or timeshares, if that's in the, if that's in the cards. How do you help people approach that into figuring out, like what their mindset should be and how to make it better?
Yeah. So mindset, I think, has gotten kind of a bum rap because it's so much in the vernacular now. And it's not just thinking happy thoughts. We're not Peter Pan, right? There's a lot of work that goes into mindset, and it has to do with optimism, with a sense of personal identity, a sense of being authentic. How many people have you talked to and they're so salesy, you feel like you need to take a shower afterward? I have conversations with people like that, and it's not a lot of fun. And yet, when you have someone who is authentic and presenting themselves, then they're the ones who are going to be successful. And that has to do with mindset and how you present yourself.
All right, great. So, like, once we have the mindset set, like once we have that part, in the bag, now we got to get into this, into the skill set.
Yeah.
And I'll fill you in on a little story, something that a lot of people don't know about me. But before I became a digital marketer and working on websites, I decided back in the day, living in South Florida at the most auspicious time possible, that I was going to be a mortgage broker. Right. So I went out and I, like, that's it, like, this is going to be my ticket to get out over, to get out of the office and to actually make some real money. And long story short, I sucked really bad at it. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Until finally, like, the guy who ran the mortgage brokerage, he was, he came over, he was really nice. And he's like, listen, Jeff, you just don't have an aptitude for this, but you made a really nice website.
Right.
Maybe you should go into that. Right. And that's really what started me down, like, this path of where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But one of the things that was interesting was the skill set that we're talking about here is not, like, whether you're using the right CRM. It's not whether you're using the right microphone or have the right car. There's much more going on in that. So let's talk a little bit about the skill set. Like, what does somebody need in order to improve their skill set in this type of work?
So I think the first skill is communication. We need to be able to communicate clearly and succinctly and in a positive way, even when we deliver not so nice news. So communication is key. And with skills, we need to think about stacking them. So it's not just I'm skilled in this area and that's it, right? We need to have multiple complementary skills that are going to move us in the right direction toward our goals. So communication. That goes along with critical thinking. People have a lot of mental activity, but not everybody's thinking. So we need to learn how to think critically about situations. That goes along with one of the things that my colleague and I love to say: in the absence of knowledge, emotion rushes in to fill the gap. It's almost kind of like there's no crying in real estate, right? Just like in baseball. So we want to get the emotion out of the way. And you do that with knowledge. The more knowledge you have, the more likely you are to rely on that knowledge instead of suddenly I'm arguing from an emotional standpoint. That's never going to win the day. So those are just two very important skills that people should focus on.
Awesome. Let's talk about the third one then. Get off your asset.
Yeah.
What does asset mean in this case?
So we got to take action. We can't just sit on the mountaintop and go, wow, I had nice thoughts, right? We know about intentions and the road that they pave. And it's more than just thinking happy thoughts. As I said, it's more than just, wow, I have these fabulous skills. We've got to put them into action. And taking action is a skill in and of itself, because we all know procrastinators, right? Busy procrastinators for the most part. We're all busy doing stuff, and yet we're not doing the critical things in that top 20% that we need to move us in the right direction. And so there are some very concrete things that people can do to begin to take action.
So let's talk about some of those concrete things.
Okay.
So one of them is, like setting up your day, setting up your environment so that you can take the action, right? So
Absolutely.
like what I did here, I have a closed room.
Mhm.
Door is closed. I even put a light on the other side of the room saying, do not bother me when this light is on.
Yeah.
Right. So those are some, basic foundational things that I set up here in order to make sure that I'm going to be able to do a good recording with you, for example.
Mhm.
Right. And in order to, also having a solid process that when I'm done with this recording, that I can have, like my team go to work and be able to, push off and create the rest of this podcast so that it will, so that it'll be as engaging and as far reaching as possible.
Yeah. And you hit it on the nail right there. Exactly. It needs to be a system and a process, something that you do repeatedly every day or as the occasion arises, right? When you do your podcast. So it's something that you do without question, that you can easily and readily and willingly repeat every single day as needed, so that you don't get to that point and go, what do I do now? Or I have to wait for inspiration to hit me, right? If I'm waiting for inspiration, it may never happen. So I want a system that I repeat every single day. And that is key to getting into action. We break it down into manageable tasks that we do every single day. That's one of the first steps. The next step is we find an accountability partner, because we can't hold ourselves accountable, right? And we tell them, these are my goals, these are my systems and my processes to make it happen. And the third step is we report back on our progress on a regular basis, because those accountability factors, along with those other steps, can increase our success rate up to 76%.
Wow. So really what we're talking about here is, probably should be drilled into just about into just
Mhm.
about everyone's head at this point, is that you need a process, right?
Yeah.
Just going back to the basic Ray Kroc McDonald's example, right? The whole
Yeah.
reason they were able to produce so many burgers so fast and so fresh was because they had a process. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go watch the movie with Michael Keaton. I think it's called The Founder, and they go through all of that, and that's how they became like one of the largest food corporations in the world, because they do have a measurable process
Yes.
where you can go to Hong Kong and have a very similar cheeseburger than if you do in Miami. And that's just awesome, just by thinking about it in terms of in those terms.
Yeah.
Sally, I'd like to ask you something. When
Mhm.
you walk people through this process, and they go through your program, and they experience, like they experience the um the revelations that they need in order to propel themselves forward. What have you seen as the net result of someone being able to apply all this? Like, what are some of the wins that you can talk about that that demonstrate how well this works?
Mhm. Uh, so I see radical transformation in people's lives. A year or so ago, I was working with a fairly new real estate agent. And in a very short period of time, she was able to develop her system. And now her business is just amazing. So there's that sort of thing, that you can see tangible results in your business with these principles. On a personal side, people see amazing transformation in that regard as well, in terms of limiting beliefs and behaviors. That has to do with mindset, because it's not necessarily what we don't know that holds us back. It's mostly what we do know that's not true that holds us back. So, with EFT, emotional freedom techniques, neurolinguistic programming, interventions like that, we can actually get to that root cause, address and eliminate some of those limiting beliefs and decisions, so that people can move forward with the right skill set and taking the right action.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Sally, can you please let everyone know how they can learn more about your business and how they can reach out to you directly?
Absolutely. My website is Sallie, Sallie, Wagner.com.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Sally, thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate you taking the time to break this process down. I really hope that if we help one person today, listening to this, it'll be a great day. So I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.